Hi there, Malcolm here with my 357th Booktube video, and today I'll be reviewing The Mouse and His Child by Russell Hoban. This is a children's book published in 1967, back in the day where children's stories equal trauma. And the story of this one follows a wind-up toy father mouse who is holding hands with his child mouse, and when they're wound up, he dances around it in a circle, lifting the child up and down, up and down. It's all rather charming. In a Toy Story fashion, they come into being, as it were, when they were first unboxed at the toy store and put up on the shelf. They're placed in front of this fabulous dollhouse. There's a wonderful wind-up elephant and a seal, and it's all glitzy and beautiful and perfect. And the child loves it all and wants to live in the house, and that the elephant becomes his mama. And of course, the elephant, a rather haughty creature, looks down upon this silly mouse and that it's ridiculous, you're going to be sold and you're going to go out into the big wide world. And the mouse says, I don't want to go out into the big wide world. The following day they're sold and go out into the big wide world, where they're placed under the Christmas tree along with a bunch of other wind-up toys, and they're wound up and they dance to the amusement of the children and the family. And at the end of Christmas they get put into the box and stuck up into the loft, and out they come the following year. And that is their existence, year by year by year. Into one year, the child mouse is so distraught by his existence he cries during the performance, startling the cat, which knocks over a tray, which crushes his father and himself. And so they're thrown out. And after being discarded, they go on an adventure. Now, first up, the main character, the mouse and his child, have no agency of themselves. They're able to speak to the other toys around them and to the animals they encounter on their way. But when that key winds down in the father's back, they cannot move. And when it is wound up, they are only able to do what the clockwork inside the father is able to do. And obviously, having already been broken, they are not able to move in the way that they used to. And as the story goes on, they lose their patent leather shoes, they lose the shine to their eyes, the clothes and the fur on their tin bodies. And all the child wants is to get back to that house, have the elephant as his mama, and the seal as his sister. And they just blunder into one ghastly, horrific situation to the next, where they meet some wonderful and fantastic creatures who die in horrific and ghastly ways. True Battlefield, for example, is the most traumatic page and a half I think I've ever read, as one thing after another happens to those around them. And just before you got your breath back from the last horrendous thing that's happened, something else happens. And you think, what the hell is going on? This is for children? Now, it's been about 40 years since I last read this, or had this read to me. I can't quite remember which one. And although I don't remember much of it, the trauma from this book has stayed with me ever since. I'm not going to lie, when I read the scene following the one I've had with the hawk, I was a mess. All these forgotten and suppressed memories came bubbling back to the surface again. This shouldn't be in the children's section, this should be in the horror section. And then the conclusion and what happens after the conclusion is so beautiful and heartwarming and lovely, and I was a mess again. This is a ridiculous book. It explains why our generation are like we are, because we grew up with this crap. This was turned into a very special motion picture featuring the voice of Peter Ustinov, who plays the villain in the story, Manny the Rat. I don't think I've seen the film. I found it on YouTube, about an hour and 20 minutes long, but there are a few snippets on YouTube. And there's one scene I think is just titled The Rock, or The Scene with the Rock in it, or something like that. It doesn't happen in the book, but by God that was dark. And of course the comments of the film are people who have watched the film in their childhood and were deeply disturbed by the film. Think Watership Down meets The Animals of Farthing Wood meets Redwall. This is a melancholic look at the loss of innocence, the loss of youth, and how you can never go back to where you were. And even if you do, where you were isn't the same anymore. But also that you can make what was better for now and going forward. There's a deep and powerful message in here. It's a book that's not talked about enough, but then it took me, I'll say, 40 years to build up the courage to read it again. I very nearly didn't. It was actually sat on my TBR shelf for about 2 years. Booktastic. I certainly think it helps if you have read this or the film when you were younger and have some deep, deep emotional damage to confront. They don't do stories like this anymore. So there you go. Have you read The Mouse and His Child by Russell Hoban? Did it destroy your childhood? Or what story were you exposed to when you were very small that has deeply disturb you for the rest of your life. I'm talking age-appropriate stuff, you know, sneaking downstairs to watch It or Alien or something when you were way, way too young doesn't count, because obviously. But stuff that says, a delightful children's book to totally disturb your child. Comments down below, please, but as usual, if you have nothing nice to say, then please keep it to yourself. Thank you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and other YouTube things if you want. And until next time, see you later.